Hi and hello everyone. Welcome back to another part of Simplifying Genshin Impact Characters. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the very bad quality, which I do not know how it happened, and I only realized it after I started editing the video. I know it's on my fault. I should have looked back at my settings or my first recorded part of it to check if everything's okay, but because I did not, we will have to work with what we got. I mean, if we just zoom out maybe a bit like this. Perfect. See? Who said anything about the quality being bad? I really enjoyed the making of the first and last part of this, so I sat down and looked through the character archive to pick out the second batch of victims, I mean characters. Our first character of the day was Kaveh, who almost made it into the first part, but thanks to Tinari he didn't. I haven't really drawn since my latest video, so I struggled a bit with my first sketches of him, but I didn't have to worry about that too much because I got the hang of it quite fast. One thing, or actually no, two things I gotta say about him is that he's so pretty and I really like his personality, and since I never drew him before, I was really happy that I got to do so here. And the second thing is that even though I like Alhaitham's playstyle, I really hate him and his egotistic personality in that he always makes fun of Kaveh, and no, I do not care that he let Kaveh live together with him, I still despise him. Although I almost chose him instead of Kaveh again, but at this point it doesn't really matter because they have similarly detailed designs and he didn't deserve to be drawn first either, so If you've been playing Genshin for a while now and you are an artist, you probably and most definitely avoided drawing this dude. Inspecting him from a lot closer and the release of multiple new characters whose designs are much more complex, I gotta admit he wasn't actually that bad. But still, to this day, he has one of the weirdest but prettiest designs. I don't really know what else to say for the sketch though, cause I already had an idea for him and I saw him a lot of times in game. Well, not because I use him in almost every team, but I'm still good at dodging. Although I must say, if it weren't for his gradients in his outfit and hair, he probably would have been the most simplified character drawn by me. One thing that I forgot to do in my first video was to swatch out each character's colors, which wasn't a big problem in the first place, but it did help me a bit later in the finished versions of the drawings. Moving on to our next character, Charlotte, who was the quickest for me to finish in the sketching process, I realized she actually has a pretty cool design and it's not even that hard or detailed as it looks like from afar. But because I already started drawing her and I loved the sketching phase, I didn't want to look up another character, and in the end it didn't really matter either way. I mentioned in the previous part of this series that I use Nilo as a main DPS in game, and to tell you the truth, I use Charlotte as a DPS as well. Well, at least I used her when she came out until she got to friendship level 10, and then I basically never use her nowadays. The main reason I really liked the chosen pose for her was because how well I drew her legs, cause nowadays I somehow just cannot get them right, but for this video I nailed most of them. Now on to Kokomi. Let me tell you, when I thought Zhongli had a lot of gradient, I was wrong. She has a lot, and I mean a lot more gradient than him, which I didn't fully illustrate in the sketch version for her because even at that point I haven't realized that just yet. But other than that, my only other problem with her was her tail, or tail-looking clothing, or whatever that is. It was a bit hard to draw for me because on the official art I didn't quite understand how it was shaped, and because I don't have Kokomi on my account, I only use her on my boyfriend's account, I couldn't even remember how it looked in game, so I had to search up a different picture where I only found this pic with her older design as well, but I could at least see what was happening from behind, even just a little bit. And while I was drawing it, I thought, What if I make the tail a bit longer so it would fold around her legs just a smidge because of the ground and all that? But I thought if I were to make that, she wouldn't be able to move that well in combat, which is already kind of funny with her original design, or anyone's original design, because in reality, basically no one's clothing would be acceptable for combat, and considering she is a war general, she should most definitely look a lot different. However, this video is not really about redesigning, so I shall restrain myself. Or maybe I should make a video about that. But I digress. I had to zoom out a little bit for this portion of the video because I realized you wouldn't be able to see a lot from it when it's drawn horizontally, although this was because I was drawing on PC this time and my PC has a square screen. But moving back to Kaveh, I really liked the sketch of him I did, and I really wanted to make it look as close to it as possible, and I do think he turned out pretty good. He's one of my favorites for this part of the series, but I'm not gonna tell you who's the one I think turned out the best, so you can go ahead and leave a comment who you think I like the most, and as well as who you guys like the most. I couldn't tell from the sketch, but later on I realized his left arm was a bit wonky, so I fixed it with the line art, and later on I gave the background a bit of color because most of the characters had something white in their design and I wanted to pop just a smidge. I love how his face turned out to be, and I'm glad I was able to make him look pretty. One thing I didn't do in these finished versions was that I didn't add volume to the line art. I don't know if anyone's noticed. I thought it wasn't necessary because I used a different brush for it, and I do think it was a good choice that I made. Ah yes, Zhongli. He gave me a bit of a headache. I loved the sketching process, I loved the line art, and I loved the colors, and everything was going fine until we got to the shading. I ended up not really liking how I shaded him in, but I didn't really know what the problem was. No matter how long I looked at him, I wasn't able to point out the problem, so I left it as it was. Looking back at it, I think his legs are a bit bigger than they should be, but I do think I ruined him mostly with the shading, but it's not the worst I have done so far. And interestingly enough, everyone else has a really colorful or bubbly color scheme, and he was the only one who had a more darker and sedate looking one, and I did have a bit of a hard time color picking from my sketch to match the right colors. Also, I felt like his forehead was showing a bit too much, so I quickly fixed that while coloring him in. I almost forgot to add his gloves. I literally finished recording and then looked back at the official art and realized he has gloves. And don't worry, this problem will soon arise again. After I finished Zhongli, the next character whom I was drawing was Charlotte, and boy, this was when I realized how much colors did I have to pick for Zhongli and how little for Charlotte. Although in the end I decided to add some of the gold lines, or at least a few, just cause it looked way too simple and because her camera's googly eyes needed that gold layer, and it would have looked really weird if I would have added it only to her camera. I'm so good at forgetting things that I only added her vision holder pocket and her cape when I already colored her in, and her gloves as last as well, as I said this before. Good thing I went back to check my sketch and look through if I was missing something again. While I was looking at Kokomi's sketch and I was going back and forth looking at other characters' finished drawings, I noticed that there wasn't much variation in the poses I had chosen out, and even if I liked the idea for Kokomi, I just knew I had to change the pose because then it would have bugged me for the rest of my life. But I do not regret changing it because I had a lot of fun with it and I love it so much, and it took me a lot of time to finish, but it was all worth it. I struggled quite a bit with her face, then her hand, then her bow on her chest, then her dress's other parts, and yes, you guessed it, I forgot some things here as well, but it doesn't matter because I realized it later on. Okay, so Kokomi's design is not my favorite lore-wise, as I said this before. She should have a totally different design, but I absolutely love her design. For a few years I didn't pay much attention to it, but for a few months now, I think from the point where my boyfriend got her, I realized her design is just gorgeous, like holy mother f***ing gorgeous. Maybe one day I'll make a tier list for Genshin designs, but for now, I'm putting her in SS tier. It's chef's kiss. I love the colors. I love the pale glitter parts in her dress and on the fish. Oh my god, the fish, just look at that beautiful blue color. And I know it's so simple, but it immediately catches one's eyes. And her light blue part of her hair is like and yes, this is definitely how I felt drawing her. But yeah, I think that's it for today's video. Here are the finished versions of everyone. I think I will post these and the sketches as well on Instagram and Twitter, so make sure to follow me there and subscribe to my channel if you like the video, because I will most definitely make more parts of this simplifying series. And yeah, until the video finishes, you can go ahead and watch me dance for a little bit. Bye bye!